Like a backstage pass to the world of fly fishing travel, this is Waypoints, the podcast of destination angling. News and events, helpful travel tips, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from some of the most seasoned and experienced names in fishing travel. Waypoints is presented by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing, the industry's #1 specialty travel company and the fly shop for the world of fly fishing. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered for your next fishing adventure. And now your host, author, photographer, and world traveler, Jim Klug.
Welcome to Waypoints, the podcast where we explore the world's most incredible destinations for travel and fly fishing. Today we'll be visiting the Turks and Caicos Islands, a tropical paradise located in the Atlantic Ocean, southeast of the Bahamas and approximately 650 miles southeast of Miami. A British territory, the Turks are a spectacular archipelago of 8 major islands and nearly 300 smaller keys. While most visitors flock to Providenciales, or Provo, with its bustling tourism hub and world-class beaches, serious anglers are much more likely to focus on the more remote waters of South Caicos, known to locals as the Big South. South Caicos offers a laid-back, off-the-grid experience, with expansive and pristine flats teeming with bonefish and other saltwater species. With a land area of just 8.5 square miles and a population of only 1,200 people, South Caicos is surrounded by an endless amount of wadeable white sand flats. The island is also steeped in history, from its days as a thriving center of the salt trade to its colonial-era remnants, which today still echo stories of its past. South Caicos offers visitors a chance to escape the crowds, connect with nature, and immerse themselves in the slower pace of island life. Our guest today is someone who knows South Caicos like the back of his hand. Bibo Jayne, founder of South Caicos Flyfishing, is a true pioneer of flats fishing in the Caribbean, who for decades has been unlocking the secrets of the South Caicos fishery. Under his guidance, this destination has become a favorite of anglers in the know, offering tailor-made experiences that combine expert instruction with an intimate knowledge of the local ecosystem. Whether it's stalking bonefish in glassy shallows or navigating the tides to place anglers in the right places at the right time, Bibo's passion and expertise make these trips unforgettable. Today we'll dive into Bibo's journey, hear how his passion for fishing and conservation shaped his approach to guiding, and learn why South Caicos is such an incredible destination. Waypoints is sponsored by Patagonia. To bring their gear to life, Patagonia is motivated by relentless curiosity and a passion for the wild. They evaluate hundreds of materials, build dozens of prototypes, and spend seasons punishing them in the world's most extreme conditions. The work is the guide, and Patagonia never tires of exploring, learning, and improving. Be sure to check out Patagonia's new Swift Current waders, repatterned and redesigned for bulk reduction, reduced seam stress, increased maneuverability, and improved repairability. Made from recycled materials without intentionally added PFAS, Swift Current waders move better in and out of the water. Bibo, welcome to the show. Thanks for sitting down with us today. It's great to have you here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, we're recording this on location at the Edison, New Jersey Fly Fishing Show. It's the middle of winter, the show season. We've both got a proper show cold where we're a little stuffed up and coughing a little bit, but it's that time of year and it kind of goes hand in hand with consumer shows. You're here at Edison. You were just at the Massachusetts show last week. Yeah,
that's correct. So now we're doing this one, and then we'll do Atlanta and hopefully continue on the rest of the tour.
Right on. Well, it's great to finally sit down with you. So excited to hear about South Caicos. Let's start off by having you tell us a little bit about your background and how you first found your way to the world of fly fishing. You're from Florida originally, correct?
Yeah, that's true. I'm from Orlando. That's my family home. Excuse me. So I basically, South Caicos, I came through on a family's boat delivery to Tortola in 1985. And I went for a run. I went out into the Salina, and I thought, who would want to live here? It was just crazy island, and that was just coming off of the 70s and 80s with a lot of pilots and things going in and out of there. So it was
interesting characters.
Yeah, it was still a little crazy. And so then after that trip, I came back in 1990, and I was married at the time. and that was the first real good exposure to South Caicos, and that was with the School for Field Studies Marine Center. And so I was a site manager, and that's basically how I got a grip there, and left there after a year, came back in 95, 96. And when we were leaving in 96, my wife said, we wanted to stay there. She said, well, I said, well, I don't know what we're going to do. She said, how about bringing an airboat in? Because we could never get up on those flats. So it was just too massive and too stark and flat for so long. So that's what we did. We started a company together with a local partner, and then ended up bringing an airboat in, basically spec'd it out, and it was, one of those things that just happened the right way.
So when you first went there in 85 and then again in 90, a few years later, did you bring fly rods with you? Were you already poking around and checking out the fishing at that time?
Well, I didn't do much fly fishing at that time. Did a lot of spin fishing, and that was primarily off the dock in the harbor, because there was no history about anything on that bank. We had a satellite image that was like the size of a postage stamp, and the Bahamas guide was the only guide. Of course, that's just a drawing that says shallow water, and I had nobody that I knew of had any history going back there. So we did a lot of trying to penetrate going back up in there, but had no idea what really was in there.
But you knew these massive flats were out there. You could see them. You obviously knew bonefish were around. But at what point did you kind of hit the awareness level where you're like, wow, there's something really special down here with this bone fishery?
That, fortunately, was the first day in the boat, which it was my wife, my two boys at the time, I have three, and our dog, and we had brought the boat over to South Caicos from Provo, took that first trip up on the bank, and just started getting shallower and shallower, and I'm thinking if we get stuck, I've got all this family I've got to manage. So we were already 2 miles into the bank, and I ended up going across this big, probably a couple inches deep water, and landed in this bay and stopped. And right then, after we sat there for a couple of minutes, school after school after school of fish came in and just started tailing and feeding all around us. And I thought, this is it.
Bonefish everywhere.
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. And that was the start of it. It was like, this is what's going to happen. So.
So you bought the airboat, got it down to South Caicos before you kind of realized what you had. Yeah. And like you said, you take it out for its inaugural family trip, and you're like, oh, okay, this is going to work out.
Yeah, we weren't sure what we were going to do with it. We knew we could do something with it because it was a unique area where there wasn't much going on in the Turks and Caicos at the time. And so we decided, it would be definitely a good risk to take. And it ended up being, just that bonefish nirvana that we found.
Was that kind of the plan with the airboat all along, was to start guiding and outfitting, or was it more, we're going to get this boat down here for fun, see what we find, and where it goes from there?
That's exactly what it was. We were just going to figure it out, figure something to do, and just, market it. But it ended up being the fishing was just so insane and dramatic that was obviously the right target. And we didn't do anything but that. That was it. There was no boat riding, no anything. It was straight up bone fishing from start.
From day one,
yeah.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think when most people think about the Turks and Caicos, especially non-anglers, they're probably thinking of Provo, which is kind of the epicenter of tourism for the country. Talk to us a little bit about South Caicos, however. I mean, you mentioned how your first trip there, you were moving a boat through and you kind of stumbled on it, but how would you describe South Caicos today as an experience, as a destination? Tell us a little bit about the island itself.
It still has its rustic appeal, and you have the internal salt works, which are from the 1700s, that are magnificent. I mean, there's a boiling hole in the center of that, so water flows in and out. Huge amount of bird life around there. Flamingos are always in the pond, and we have a lot of other wading birds, and other birds that also frequent that area. But it still has that rustic charm, and the town itself was the original town built with the plantations that did the salt, And there was a lot of historical loyalists that came in back in the day, in the, of course, Revolutionary War, and they grew cotton and sisal and had cattle and things like that. And most of that stuff failed over time, but it still has that same look to it. I mean, you have all these Bermudian-style old homes, walls. It's just a unique place, and it's still definitely the fishing epicenter of the Turks and Caicos for conch and lobster.
For commercial-wise?
Yes, absolutely.
And spectacular beaches, I would imagine.
Yep. Nice beaches, beautiful stuff. And it's when you come to Provo, and you land there, you might have 10, 12 planes on the tarmac that have loaded or are loading. And then you get on the flight coming from Provo to South Caicos, which is 20 minutes, and then it's like coming into a different world. I mean, there's nobody there. We have 1,200 residents, and the beaches are very untraveled, to say the least. There's just lots of neat things to do, and you have wild donkeys. We have all sorts of cool stuff, and it still remains like that.
So the airboat was the start of it. Do you still operate with the airboats? Is that still a big part of your program?
That's true. We just, we're just putting together a new, essentially a whole new program together. So we have new airboats, new skiffs, and so not coming from waiting for 20 years, pretty much. Now operating, we're using Brian and Heidi Floyd's Floyd skiff, a 10 weight, which is 18 feet. So that being able to now access new areas that we've never done in the past. We fish Hamburger Ski, we fish way out in this channel, which we didn't do with the airboat. So it's increased our range by another 25 square miles, maybe, something like that. But yeah, the airboats are still the primary ticket to get up onto the bank, for sure.
Because you can go super skinny.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not aware of any other operations in the Bahamas or that part of the Caribbean, anywhere that uses airboats. I think you're kind of the only one.
I had heard that somebody in the Abacos had some at one point in time, but I don't know anything about it. But I've never seen anything publicized. I don't know if it's personal use or what. I don't believe it was for fishing charters. Because you've got to have a lot of firm bottom, to be using one. Because there's no reason to use it unless you're out to wade.
Right. And that was always the deal, is the airboat was basically a taxi service that got you to these amazing places. Then you got out and did it all on foot.
That's correct.
And that's still the deal down there.
Same thing. And you can go out and walk miles all day long in water that's lower than knee deep. So it's really fantastic wading.
White sand, firm bottom.
White sand, absolutely. The only thing you really find is a crab here and there. And then I'm a barefoot wader, so, that's a wake-up call when you step on one.
Well, you've obviously built up a lot over the years. Talk to us a little bit about how the program has evolved over these years, since you first got the boat down there, since you first discovered this amazing bonefish resource. I know over the years you've had different kind of iterations of accommodation options and different packages. But compared to those early days when you first had the boat delivered to today, talk to us a little about the evolution of your program.
Well, in the first stages of it, a lot of it was still discovery. We did about a year of R&D straight up before we started doing any advertising or marketing. So there was a lot of research done, and we still, you still learn that area. It's not routine at all, which, 25 years of doing it is still exciting. So every day is a new day. But so we took it with the article in 01 in Fly Fish and Salt. That was our first punch. And that one put us on the map. And so we continued to do just a straight airboat and wading. And that was good. And then, we kind of lost a lot of our market over like 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Things started to fade off because it was, people had come and done it, and everybody likes to go to the newest offering. So we had a huge push then. I was turning people away. So then later, as we progressed on with the same program, I got an interest in paddleboarding because we're going into these creeks, which we'd never done before, and we were walking in them. And the problem with walking in these creeks is they're very muddy and they're very rocky. So when you're walking, sometimes you'd step in a hole or, step in mud that's knee deep. So we had to find I was trying to find something else to do. And they had the surfboard style ones, which made too much noise. And then Mark Caslow was making the Dragonfly 13.6. And I went home and paddled those, so we brought those in, started using that, and that was amazing. So you could paddleboard. But then again, it's a novelty. There's a learning curve. Guys couldn't come in just for a paddleboard trip. It was too much. So, and the wind was an issue. So that obviously faded. And then now what we're doing is a tremendous improvement with the skiffs. Is just phenomenal. That's a great vehicle for options, because not everybody wants to walk 5 miles a day. Or if you have low water in the morning, you can nudge that bow up on a bar, wait it till the water fills in, get back in the boat, and then pole around where it fills into. So, you got a lot of good options with that. And now what we're doing is, previously it was just my local partner and myself running the boats, and that was it. And now what I'm doing is I have 4 belongers that I'm training. 2 of them are fully trained, and they've been fishing with me for 3 years, and 2 of them are newer. But some of them are former netters or generational family netters, and that's about 3 out of the 4 or come from that netting stock. And so we're still battling that, and that's hopefully coming to end shortly. But that's probably the biggest new improvement that we're doing is training these guys. To now, we're trying to get this bottom layer of, hey guys, it's time to stop. And all of them, like one of them, his father's still a netter. He says, you've got to stop it now. I mean, it's the end of it. So it's great to see it. It's great to see that.
Well, and that old adage of a live bonefish swimming across the flats is worth so much more than something laying on a table in a fish market, right? I mean, that's the economic driver for so many of these destinations. Absolutely.
And that's one of the things they're seeing, because South Caicos wasn't really on the map by any means, because there were no resorts. There was no reason really to come there for tourists. And when we started, there's a Where, When, How magazine that's published in Provo. It had Provo, North Caicos, Middle Caicos, and Grand Turk. South Caicos wasn't even mentioned. So it was the most obscure place. And now we also have East Caicos, which is the largest uninhabited island in the Caribbean, to the north. And it was a former sisal and cattle operation up there, and I think that phased out in the 30s. But so we've got that huge resource of wilderness up there, and so there's nobody up there doing anything. And that whole backside of that is nothing but creeks and tidal areas and tidal mangroves.
Habitat.
Absolutely. So so South Caicos basically is the gateway to the outback of the Turks and Caicos.
Well, in the past, you've had some guest house options, and obviously you ran a lot of day trips for people that would just kind of come down, but you did have some accommodations options. That's something that's evolved significantly, and you've got a pretty big new project that you've entered into that's about to go live as far as the ability for people to come down and stay in accommodations that are substantially nicer than what's been available in the past. Tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah, that's correct. It's Salterra Resort and Spa, and it was formerly East Bay Resort, which had been running as a small just beachside resort. And so the new ownership purchased that during the pandemic, and then now it's been reformed and absolutely reconstructed and constructed. I mean, it's a gorgeous place now. I think there's 6 restaurants, 100 rooms, and it's a 5-star Marriott luxury property. That's what we're going to be. So, that coinciding with a absolute world-class fishery is just, it's just diamonds. It's incredible.
That's really a game changer.
Absolutely. And everybody, and I always tell people, no non-fishing spouses ever, because it was just so rustic and not friendly for that. Now, absolutely, we can accommodate families, friends, you name it, non-fishing, anybody.
You've gone to the total opposite end of the spectrum, whereas before it was very much a fishing-focused destination. Now it's an amazing couples destination, family destination. That level of accommodations, amenity service, it's now all going to be there with this new Marriott property.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that is opening in 2025.
That's true, February 15th.
Pretty exciting times. Well, I know we're excited to offer that in our program. It's something we've been looking forward for a long time. We talked about how Provo was always kind of the epicenter. A little bit more about the country. It's not an independent country, correct? It's still a British overseas territory, which means that the Turks and Caicos are self-governing in many aspects, but remain under the sovereignty of the United Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
How's that as far as living down there, and what's that whole kind of atmosphere like?
I don't know that you really notice much about that. The Bahamas seems to operate fairly similar, even though they're independent. But you kind of have the governors appointed by the crown, and so that person basically, I think, is more of a dignitary, more so than anything. I don't know how much real activity they have. I know they do have a lot of concerns about if there's crime or if there's economic issues, something like that, then they do step in with a comment or some sort of planning. But the local government is Turks Islanders. It's all elected, the premier all the way down to all the ministers. So they basically have a democracy that they're running with elected officials. So it's simple to operate there. You know, we're on U.S. currency, so it's very easy to get in and out. There's multiple flights daily from the East Coast. And now we're getting ready to do a direct flight with American Airlines from Miami into South Caicos. That starts on February 15th, coinciding with the opening of the resort. And that will be Saturdays and Wednesdays.
That's huge. Because that was my next question, is about how do you get to Turks and Caicos and to South Caicos particularly. In the past, people would fly to Provo and then you said take the 20-minute flight down, which is still an option. But this new American Airlines service, it looks like they're going to have direct flights from Miami and then fairly soon from Dallas, Charlotte, and Phoenix as well, is what I saw kind of advertising online. So that's going to be a massive game changer for angler access to South Caicos and for your operations. It just got a lot easier to get there.
Yeah, it's a big step up. And it's not only good for us, you know, for the resort, it's great for the Turks and Caicos people. Because now they don't have to go over to Provo, which is expensive. It's another $140, I guess, round trip, something like that, to get over there. And it takes a day, and then you've got to deal with all the logistics. So now they'll just be able to get on the plane in South, go right to Miami.
Yeah, direct flights.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's going to be fantastic.
And that's starting in February of 2025.
That's correct, yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, Bibbo, there's obviously a lot of great flats fishing options kind of all throughout the Caribbean. I know you've been to a bunch of them. What is it about South Caicos that makes that fishery so unique and so special? You talked about the shallow water, you talked about the backcountry and, you know, the untouched expanse of East Caicos, but why South Caicos, say, versus a destination in the Bahamas or something in the Yucatan or elsewhere in the Caribbean, for example? What makes your fishery so unique?
Big fish. That's one. We have a lot of big fish. Our fish probably goes 4 to 6 pounds average. That's one of the beauties of it. And you find so many different fishing situations that it's not a routine like where you go, it's 3 hours into the incoming tide, there's this point, the fish are going to come across this point. It doesn't work like that. You could go out one day and see 10,000 fish on the bank and go out the next day and not find one. So, you know, and the minute you seem to think you have it figured out, it just throws it right back in your face. You know, and all of a sudden you're just like, what is going on? And you know, it may be where you're fishing in an edge and you've got singles and pairs coming up. You might find a school of 1,000 fish, 250, 300. You know, it varies, and it depends where you are on the bank, how it works, but it all thrives on this ability to have very low water for a significant amount of time, where you can wade like endless white sand flats. That's really the whole market of it. It's amazing when you go out, especially running in an airboat, and you're running in inches deep water, and the sun's brilliant, and all you see is this white mass in front of you. I mean, it's just endless flat. So it's a beautiful experience.
Well, tell me, what type of angler is best suited for your fishery? Obviously, you know, you're going to get some beginners, you're going to be people that have been everywhere else in the world, but if you could give some advice to anglers that are planning their next saltwater destination, who is this the perfect destination for?
I think it suits everyone's needs, especially now with that, having the skiffs, because then you can skiff fish, you can wade. You have a variety of different spots you can go to, so you're not fishing same areas all the time. You're always moving around. So that way, if somebody is a little bit not so athletic or physically oriented anymore, which a lot of us are getting that way too, then they have the ability to get in a skiff one day, get in the airboat one day, whatever they want to do. And there's no difference. If you say, I want to go in the airboat, fish today, okay, fine. Do you want to go? Oh, I want to go in the skiff tomorrow. Okay, fine. As long as there's availability and we have able to schedule it, it's not a problem. But that's angler side, like skill level. you could be the first day on the rod and be successful. I mean, as long as you can make that fly turn over 20 feet, 30 feet, the fish will come in close like that. So it's very good for beginners, and it's exceptional for experienced anglers as well.
And is it all 100% focused on bonefish all the time, or do you occasionally find some other species as well?
We primarily are bonefish. I mean, I tell people we're 100% bonefish because that's truly all that we look for. There are a couple areas that hold permit, but they're seasonal when they're going to be there, and it's a very small area. But I mean, there are some shots at permit for sure.
But it's a bonefish game.
Absolutely.
Numbers and size.
Yep.
What type of conditions are typically found down there? I mean, you're way out on the flats. You're obviously exposed. I do want to talk a little bit about seasonality and your actual seasons of operations, but describe kind of the typical conditions, what anglers can expect. And yeah, it's a saltwater environment. It can change from day to day. We know that. But give us a typical day as far as what we're expecting for kind of tidal swings, weather, visibility, that kind of thing.
Well, we have like a max about a 3-foot tide, and that's on a full moon, new moon, king tide situation. That's the biggest tide we get. Normally it's about anywhere from 1.5 to 2 feet. That's normal. So I tell people if they're wading, come in on a quarter moon. That's always low water in the morning. And then it's coming in, and you don't get that big of an influx. So as it fills in, it doesn't fill in that much. So some areas on the bank are 4 to 6 hours difference of the true tidal change. You might go up on a cut, fish low water, incoming, and then later that's still falling way out on the bank, so you head out there. There's just really a lot of opportunities to do different things.
So you guys are always moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. And weather-wise, the wind, everybody kind of has a little bit of a fear of the wind, but always we have always said the wind is your friend, because when you're up on the bank and it's, let's say it's a foot deep, and it's glassed off, those fish are just so absolutely keyed up on everything around them. They can hear everything. They can see everything above and below the water. So that makes it tough. When the wind's blowing 20, 25, I mean, it's like you're invisible. They don't care. They're so focused on the bottom, and the turbulence is enough static that they don't care what's going on. They'll come right up to you. And many times when it's like that and it's ultra low water, they're swimming, with fins out of the water, back out of water, and you're just crawling along trying to make that cast so they don't see you with lifting that rod high. I mean, it becomes like a very much a combat fishing situation like that. How can you camouflage yourself?
Well, those glassy, calm days can just be the kiss of death too. It can be so tough for any of these flat species, but anglers always have this misconception that the calmer the better because it makes casting easier, but it makes those fish hyper alert, super spooky, and oftentimes if it's glassy, you even think about lifting a rod, like you said, and those fish are gone. So when you do get those windy days, yeah, you got to deal with the wind a little bit more with your cast, but your chances of success are so much higher when you got a little chop on the water.
Oh, definitely. And the big benefit about wading is, if you have a fish upwind and it's either moving away from you, moving toward you, left or right, whatever, you can always get around that fish, get up to it. And I've tracked fish, large fish for like an hour trying to get the right shot to them. So it's really, it has such a hunting aspect to it when you're on the flats like that. And with the wind, if you're throwing a sidearm, however, that's going to help you on your distance if you really need it. Upwind is always a chore, of course, but you don't always have to take that shot. You can always wait, get around them, and get the fish on your right angle.
Well, talk to me a little bit about what a typical day looks like. If I'm showing up, and let's say I'm there for a week, what is each day going to start off like, and what's that? Kind of walk us through that process.
Well, when you arrive, you'll be greeted and shown around where we are, where our fly fishing operation is, which we have a standalone building that is going to be the fly shop and the water sports, but it'll have fly shop inside. It'll have like an honor bar. Basically, it's going to be like this nice, intimate little hangout spot. It'll have fire pits, that sort of thing. So that's where our fishing hub is, and that's where all the rods can be kept, so you're not carrying, your 9-foot stick through the resort and possibly hitting it into a ceiling fan. So they'll be stored over there. You can have access to your locker whenever you want to. Keep your booties in there, everything like that. So you arrive, have your dinner, get up in the morning. It's an 8 o'clock start. We go out, like a full day is an 8 to 4 day. We don't hold on that end time at all. I mean, if things were bad in the morning or tough in the morning and all of a sudden it lights up in the afternoon, we're staying, especially with, when you get later in the year, you get more sun, the hour days or sun out. The days are a lot longer outside. Yeah. So we can stay till, 5 o'clock, whatever, 6 o'clock. So that happens often.
Nice. And you're out all day, you kind of pack a lunch. And again, if you're in the airboat, you're kind of moving from spot to spot, getting dropped off, doing a wade session. And then if conditions change or maybe the fish have moved on or they're not quite there yet, it's easy to jump in and quickly relocate. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we always do is when you get out and start walking off, if you have a guide with you, what we'd do is we'll just start marching toward the fish, working into them. And then if you progress and let's say you're a quarter mile from the boat, the guide will go back and get in the boat and bring it up. He'll just run up to where he's not going to interfere with the fish, and then he'll get out and pull the boat behind. So you're always in close proximity to the boat, whether you wanted to go have a seat, get your sandwich, refill your water, whatever you wanted. Or break a rod. That's another one.
How many anglers are typically in an airboat when you go out? Will you take 4 anglers? Is it a large group? How do you usually break them up?
We like to hold to 6. That's the way that it works best. You could do more if it was one group. I mean, the boats will carry 10 passengers and a captain. So if you had 7 people, whatever. I mean, but we will if it's not its own group, we'll hold it to 6.
Okay.
And then you can always. I mean, a lot of times you don't have 6 on the boat, but that's pretty much primarily the way that we like to keep it. And when we were forming this, the carrying capacity of this fishery to me is 12 people, and that's running 1 or 2 skiffs and running the 6 people in the airboats. We're trying to hold our bookings to 12 anglers only.
Talk to me a little bit about your guides. Their experience level, all local guys that have been there forever. You mentioned earlier how you had a number of guides who had been in the commercial world before, which we see in a lot of places in the Caribbean. I mean, these are people that have grown up on the water. They know where the fish are. They've been going out and harvesting fish for years. But now you take that knowledge, that oftentimes generational knowledge, you move them into the guide world rather than the harvesting world. And you've tapped into some pretty deep experience there. Talk to us a little bit about your guide team and the guys you have working with you.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good point. Willis Jennings he's my senior guide. He obviously my age too, but he was a hauler or netter. He knows everywhere on that bank to go, when not to go, when to get out, where's the next spot going to be. He's just fantastic. So that's exactly right. That knowledge from all of his years on the bank has been, just set up for him to do this. And then Lincoln Craig, he's my second guide. Lincoln came from North Caicos. We had no idea that he was as talented as he was until he went out with one of my former clients that took him on a kayak fishing trip. So they went out, waded the flats. Well, we found out that Lincoln's vision is spectacular. It's like Superman eyes. So he's now eagle eyes. So we do have an eagle eyes in Turks and Caicos, where everywhere else usually does too. But that's him. Then we have Marvin Jennings, who's these are the next 2 are the junior guides. Marvin is generational family netter. I knew his grandfather, who was a netter. His father's a netter. And, he did it as a boy, too. So now he's come in. He's the one's like, this has to stop with the netting. So he's really, outspoken about that. And then we have Dave Clare Jr., who Dave Clare is his father's a very big personality on South Caicos. He's also hooked in with the Jennings. The Jennings and Clares were always fishermen. Well, most people are, but they're very outspoken people and just, great personalities, and Dave is going to be really top notch when we let him loose.
Good guys to have on the team.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, talk to us a little bit about bonefish behaviors of South Caicos bonefish. And yeah, a lot of people think, well, bonefish are bonefish anywhere, right? But you definitely see different kind of feeding behaviors, characteristics when you look at fish, say, in Central America versus in the Bahamas. Anything unique or interesting about the specific behaviors of bonefish where you guys are? Anything you've kind of learned and discovered over the years?
I think the biggest asset to our fish is they act like they've never seen a fly before. That's the best part about it. I mean, if you get it near them, they're going to eat. It's amazing how hungry our fish are, and very aggressive. That's probably one of the better parts about it. But that's the only thing I could think is different. But they all do different characteristics. Like if you have creek fish, the creek fish kind of stay in the creeks all the time. They come out with low water and mud in front of the creek, and those fish, are primarily in that same habitat all the time. The bank fish, when you catch them, they are almost translucent. They are unbelievably gorgeous, just silver gets. So those are really two distinguishing features between them, but they all still act about the same. And if you're in a creek fishing, same thing when on a bank fish. I mean, you have tailing fish in the creeks, you have fish that are cruising. I mean, it's just they all act the same whether they're on the bank or in the creek, but they're easy to feed. That's the best thing.
Well, bonefish are awesome. We talk a lot about this on this podcast. We've done multiple destination profiles having to do with bonefish. We talk a lot about the species. Hands down, one of my favorite species in the entire world of fly fishing. We always call them an honest fish. And what I mean by that is like when you do your job as an angler, they reciprocate and they do their job as the quarry. I mean, you put a well-presented fly, the right pattern, you do it. You do everything right on your part with the right cast and the right presentation. They're usually going to reciprocate and do their job by eating your fly.
That's
awesome.
True. And that's one thing. I'll sit there and mess with this permit occasionally and just get denied, and I'll look over, and these of course are ocean. It's on a beach, and so here comes a couple ocean bonefish. I just flop it over to them, like an avalon. They just immediately eat it. I'm like, thank God. Some satisfaction.
Well, that's because permit are dishonest fish, right?
Oh,
bonefish are honest fish.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And I'll tell you, as an angler, I don't know how anyone would ever get tired of catching bonefish. And as someone who's maybe made a couple of trips to, say, Central America, the Bahamas, like, I've caught plenty of bonefish, now I'm on to other species. I never quite understand that because bonefish are one of the coolest fish you can catch on the fly, hands down. And there is also a very, very significant difference between a 2-pound bonefish, say, in Central America, and an 8-pound bonefish somewhere else in the Caribbean. I mean, they're almost a different species.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you can always tell that on the initial hookup. Like if you don't get a good eye on the fish, what it was at 8, and then all of a sudden you see it just throwing those, huge sprays as it's going off, you've got a heavy fish on line. And that 100-yard first blast.
Yeah.
It's always significant.
There's missiles. Yeah, absolutely. Well, talk to us a little bit about gear for your fishery, Bibbo, a topic that comes up all the time when people are planning and researching their destination trip. What are they going to need to effectively chase bones in South Caicos? What's your setup?
What we like to do is we throw 8-weight standard stuff. Anything that you do, Bahamas, because we're basically, I would say, Bahamian Basin, because we're all fishing the same big bank that comes down. And the next island past us is the Dominican Republic, so then you go to volcanic instead of limestone. So it's Charlie's, gotchas, EP, spawners, Viverka manus, anything like that. And we didn't used to throw a lot of crabs at all, but I mean, crab patterns have come on really well, and so we do those, like some merkins, maybe something like that. But I just like 8-weight, and I use a 15-pound tippet. And if I have to buy 12.5-pound, I cut it off and put a 15 on, because I'm not going to risk losing a fish with a head shake at your feet, which happens regularly.
And as you were saying, these fish are willing to eat. They're not super leader shy down there, so you can get away with 15 or 16.
Oh, absolutely. And there's days, historically, where you were breaking fish off, and it was just frantic because there's so many fish. At the end of the day, you've got a 6-foot, 6 foot left of your tapered leader. So now you're about 30 pounds, 40 pounds on the end, and fish still eat it.
They're still eating it.
Yeah. It's a very, interesting thing. Because when it gets on, it's just crazy. You get all these fish moving. Yeah, it's really intense.
And I can imagine if you've got 6 anglers that are kind of spread out on a giant flat, all got out of the airboat, went their own way. There's got to be times you look over and almost everybody's hooked up.
Absolutely. I've got many, many pictures of 4 anglers hooked up at one time or more. We used to always have, and usually when the guys are fairly tight and haven't spread out that much, they'll all group together, which doesn't always end well.
Crossed lines and
absolutely. But for that one picture with everybody with the bent rod.
That's pretty cool. How about back to flies for a second? Is it mostly like size 4s and 6s? What's your typical size?
I don't normally go to a 6, but 4 is obviously our go-to. Our fish are pretty big, so and they will just hoover that down. So the 6s, they're really, that's hard to get one out because they've adjusted it already. But and a 2's a little heavy. I'd stick with a 4 1/8-inch BJ&I on the spawners because they got a little fluff to them. With a dumbbell eye is great. And sometimes you want to have that little bit of drag on the bottom so a fish sees it with the dust coming up.
But nothing fancy. The gotchas, the viverkas, the standards.
Absolutely. And, because we are in the trades, you have a good chance of having, a decent wind. And those, Charlies and gotchas throw really well in the wind. A lot more accurate.
How about other key pieces of equipment down there? Things that people want to bring down, like a good waterproof backpack. Mm-hmm. Are you out, with all your gear? Are you leaving it in the boat? What do you recommend for kind of a gear system for their kit?
You can use like a waist bag is fine, or a sling bag, something like that. You don't really need too much gear to carry with you. And I wouldn't really go into carrying a spare rod on the backpack because you're not that far away from the boat. The boat's always there. And it just frees you up. Because it is pretty hot too. So with those big backpacks, you tend to sweat a bit. So I would just bring, nippers, usual stuff, nippers, forceps.
Spool a tippet.
Yeah.
A few extra flies.
Yep.
You're good to go.
And we are an Orbis dealer, so we do have a fly shop. Anything you need that's missing, we can always supply.
And as far as loaner gear, like if people want to travel light and show up, do you have rods, reels, the whole kit that they can use?
Absolutely. Yep. Everything's included in the trip.
It's included. Nice. Mm-hmm. How about footwear? Wading boots? What do you recommend people bring down?
If you are going to bring a boot, which I would recommend it because you never know. Barefoot's obviously the best situation, but just the standard neoprene boot with a rubber sole.
Nothing too heavy duty needed.
No, not like any Marl Walker Christmas Island style stuff. You don't need that, and that will actually wear you out. Wearing those, I collected many pairs over the years. People get out and after their 4th mile, they have them over their shoulder.
They're just going barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Talk to us a little bit more about the seasonality for South Caicos. Obviously, the new resort, I would imagine, is going to be open and operational 12 months out of the year. As far as making the trip down to fish, is there a particular season or a window that you like, or are you guys operating 12 months?
Of course, we're open, and you're welcome to fish any of those months. But I'd say the best time to come is November through May. That's our standard slot, and you're outside of the hurricane range too, which is significant if you ever get tropical wave even come over. So it keeps you out of that range. But then the flats cool off because in the heat of the summer, especially like September, that bank gets really hot and the creeks are just beastly hot back there. So I don't even really like chasing those fish so much because it's so hot. We tend to stay more toward the cuts and where you get a lot of ocean flow, so it's much cooler. We tend to stay in there and don't go back and hit fish that are in 90-degree water. We try to stay out and leave them alone.
And during those winter months, even late fall, winter, into January, February, are you guys far enough south where you kind of avoid those cold fronts where you get the plummeting temperatures? Is that ever an issue for you?
Oh, no, we're far enough south for sure. That's one of the real benefits. And had plenty of people that had been doing a lot of the northern Bahamas But then it became, it was so cold. Sometimes they'd get a big blast, and I actually lived in San Salvador for a couple of months during the winter. And when the cold fronts came out there, I've never seen storms like that.
Oh yeah, it can happen. I was down in the Bahamas in December this year, and we had a day where everybody was literally wearing like puffy coats on the flats. I mean, it was frigid out there. Unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
no,
so.
we don't. If we do get a front, the front will pass us, but it's typically a one-day event. It'll come through. You'll see the front line approaching. That wind will switch. It'll go down to the south, then it turns west. Then it comes north, and then it turns northeast, and we're back on. We might get a little shower, but that's about it.
That's about it. Nice. Well, let me ask you about this. At Yellow Dog, we're not in the do-it-yourself fishing business. There are entities out there that, kind of put information and send people out into the world on their own and say, hey, you don't need a guide. You can figure it out on your own. And we do have listeners that are, very interested in DIY opportunities. Talk to us about the realities of DIY fishing on South Caicos. I mean, is it a thing, or is it all about, getting access where you do need a guide and a boat just to get out to where it's relevant?
I'm sorry, what's DIY mean? No, you can. There's a couple options that you can get to. It's very limited.
Yeah.
You're in a very tight area, and you won't be accessing these gigantic flats. You could start to, but you could walk 5 miles and not find a fish, and if you went that extra half mile, you'd be in it. So you never know. So the DIY is small on South. Yeah,
it's usually limited in most places, and I always say, it's a great example of you kind of get what you pay for. Some people like it and they like figuring it out on their own, and that's great. But you got to know that you are going to have limited access. And the reason, guides don't guide just on foot is because they want to get you in a boat. They want to take you to far off remote places where it's happening. And if it's not happening there, they want the ability to quickly move to other places where you find fish. That's why you get guided, and that's why you go with people that know where to find them no matter what's happening with the conditions.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's the whole game. If you're spending the money to come, you may as well be successful.
That's right. That's the one thing we're all short on is time, right? That's the
absolutely.
Fishing licenses, are they required down there?
Yes, they are. And we have fishing licenses. They're included with your boat trip, too.
So that's all part of the package.
Right.
So with the new Salterra fishing packages that are being put together, it's going to be accommodations, obviously guided fishing, licenses, transfers once you arrive, meals. Is it the whole inclusive package?
Yeah, that's the way it's set up. But we don't. It's the way the inclusive part of it is for meals is there's $125 right. This is at this course's recording, $125 credit for breakfast and your dinner, and then your lunch is included on the boat. So
the fishing day.
I think that's really the only variable that there is that, but everything else is included. Yeah.
Well, and what a difference those new accommodations are going to make. We said it. That's changing the whole game down there.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I have a lot of long-term clients that are coming back now, and so it's good to finish up this way. We've been out at 25 years, and to go now full circle into this, luxurious 5-star operation with our absolutely world-class fishery just goes hand in hand. So looking forward to it.
Well, and even though, it's going to be 100 rooms, oftentimes people are like, oh, great, a huge resort's opening up. That place is now ruined. To your point, you're keeping it at 12 rods a day.
Yeah. With
skiffs and airboats, still spreading people out. You're not saying, hey, we're going to, host 40 anglers a day. You're keeping it small. You're keeping, the balance in that resource so that fishing can stay great.
That's exactly right. And one of the reasons is, I grew up with my parents fishing Marco Island in the 60s and 70s in a 17-whaler. I threw, million casts with jigs to the mangroves. And so I watched Marco Island get developed with the Mackle brothers back then. And they had a wooden bridge when I first started going there with my parents. And so being a Floridian and avid fisherman in Florida, watching areas get developed. And like Tiger Tail Beach didn't have, I don't think, a building on it at the time. So then seeing that development, so the thought was, and startup back in 99 was, we're going to hold it to 6 anglers. We're going to run one boat. That's the product. I could have brought 4 or 5 airboats in and just blown it out, but that wasn't the vision. The vision was a obscurity and giving people an experience they can't get anywhere else. And that's what we're holding to now.
And would you say that, from when you started running that airboat 25 years ago to today, how do you compare the fishery?
We've had a couple big hurricane events that have changed the flats topography a bit. So, areas that used to go dry don't go dry now, and areas that didn't used to do. And so things have changed up a little bit. But still, on a given day when you're out, our fishery is just exceptionally nice and good. And it's very healthy, even though we still have the aspect of netters, hopefully ending soon. I think once that stops, we're going to see a huge increase back to where it was when we started. When we started in '99, I mean, there's days you'd go out and there was almost too many fish. It was just crazy.
You didn't have to move. Easy. You just would stand in one place and they just kept coming.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, with the new resort opening up and really kind of the expansion as a draw for now non-anglers, families, the things we were talking about, beyond the bone fishing, what other activities or experiences are people going to be able to take advantage of when they come to South Caicos? What are there for the non-anglers to do?
We have since it is the islands, we have a huge water-based menu. We have whale watching, scuba diving, snorkel trips, pontoon sunset cruises. What else? Eco kayak trips, eco paddleboard trips, yoga, huge spa, paddleboard yoga. I wish I had the list in front of me. I know I'm forgetting some things, but there's pretty much anything anybody wants to do. And we also offer fly fishing lessons, fly casting demonstrations, fly tying, that sort of thing too.
How about, and you kind of talked about this in the beginning when we first started talking here, Bibbo, about the South Caicos kind of characteristics, but give us kind of your read on the overall vibe of what the stay and visitation and vacation experience down there would be versus other popular destinations in the Caribbean. What's kind of the vibe of South Caicos?
I think the best way to describe that is it's low key and it's very laid back. There's no sense of urgency. You come to have a vacation and you get one. You're not racing off to go, see how, if you have to go to Starbucks before the crowd gets there. Even Provo is very hectic, fast paced. We have 6 restaurants too, which is nice on property. And there's a couple different entities in town. And with the opening of this resort, that will expand. There's a good infrastructure starting to form up. So there's things to do. But it's just very low key, and the people of South Caicos are extremely friendly. I mean, I used to take guys. There's one bar in town, and it's the locals bar, and it's all fishermen. So everybody's, after they've had a good day of fishing, they're letting off a few steam over there, and I bring guys in, and I said, you could have $100 bill sticking out of your pocket, and nobody's going to ever do anything but be your best friend and say, hey, want to buy me a drink? That would be about the extent of it. But, I mean, it's just a great place to be.
Nice. Well, along with being a successful guide and outfitter, Bibbo, you've also been a consistently outspoken voice for conservation and sustainability in the region. I mean, you just touched on it multiple times with the netting situation, with the specific move to keep the pressure low by not running too many boats on your flats. Tell us a little bit about your approach to conservation over the years, how it still fits in with your overall business model today.
Well, it seems obviously people's concerns now are a lot more outward on the environment and how the fishery is affected, how to release fish properly. And we used to do the grip and grin. Now we do the dip and drip instead. Go to the fish, don't lift the fish up. So a lot of things have changed that way. And in 2000, there was one of the faculty members at the School for Field Studies, and that was Andy Danilchuk.
Oh, yeah.
So Andy, we all started out doing the same stuff. So he ended up getting with Jerry All at University of Miami and started doing a tagging program. So Andy did that. And then, of course, Andy is who he is now. I mean, 25 years later, he's a top-notch researcher on bonefish and expert. So We funny is we just started. The School for Real Estate just started to basically approach that same tagging project that he started back then, because nobody had been doing anything since. So now I have Andy back in the loop, trying to form up, an effective, I guess more of an effective program that's going to value or add value to the scientific research. Like, what are we looking for? Are we looking for what's the baseline of the fishery? How many fish are there? What are we looking to do? So he's kind of targeting this so we can figure out, exactly what's the best approach to do it. So now we have, he's hopefully going to be involved doing that, which will be fantastic. So that will help with the vision of what the conservation effort should be.
And overall long-term management as far as where you're putting boats, how many anglers, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's for
really
sure.
Neat. Well, Bibo, I know I speak for the entire Yellow Dog team when I tell you we're super excited for everything you have that's going on, all the new introductions. We're looking forward to working with you on this and to booking the program moving forward. For anyone interested in learning more, we'll have full details, trip specifics, rates, photos for the new Salterra operation up on the Yellow Dog website very soon. So check it out online and give us a call to start planning an amazing trip south to fish with Bibo and his team. We are stoked with everything you have going on. And thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It's been a great conversation and really fun learning about your amazing little part of the world down there.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you invited me. I've never met you, and this is the first time I've met you.
I know it. It's been good.
Yeah.
And look forward to spending some more time together. For
Fantastic.
Sure. Well, that is it for this episode of Waypoints. Be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com to plan and research trips, source gear, equipment, and flies for your next destination, learn about upcoming podcast episodes, and stay up to date and dialed in on the latest news in fly fishing, travel, and adventure. Join us for our next episode. And remember, in a time of crazy news, politics, and people, traveling to new places and meeting new people and experiencing different cultures is now more important than ever. Keep fishing and keep traveling, because when it's all said and done, no one ever regretted a life of adventure.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel and adventure angling. Waypoints is produced by Brian Gregson and written by Jim Klug. Music is written and provided by bluegrass legend Woody Platt. Audio engineered by Sean McCormick. Visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more location profiles, destination information, travel news, and the industry's best selection of flies and equipment for destination angling.